What's the problem, Grover? All these rich people in New York and New Jersey are totally paying more. Why aren't liberals happy about that?
Well, overall taxes are down 25%. You've seen H&R Block lay out on their website exactly where the tax cuts are. New York, New Jersey get good overall tax reduction. We went through the series of fibs a couple weeks ago where people said refunds were down. Refunds are actually up, but almost exactly the same as usual. The Democrats are in complete denial. Jim Tankersley of the New York Times has been writing, the Democrats keep saying there haven't been these tax cuts, and then he writes a piece saying they're just in complete denial. The Democrats did this in 1984, remember, when they told everyone there wasn't a recovery going on, it was just bi-coastal. Then they lost 49 states in the next election. At some point, reality catches up with the Democrats' rhetoric, and they've made a big mistake in telling people that they didn't get the tax cut that they saw. In New York, you can solve your problem with SALT by electing some governors and some mayors who keep taxes low. It's your own fault.
Hey, Barney, I think one of your main gripes is about the truly regressive taxes like Social Security and sales tax, things like that.
Yes.
Those are still prohibitively high for a certain group of people. And is that where your real beef is? Because a lot of people.
Well, that's one of them. The fact is that 50% of the revenue comes from the individual income tax, but 35% comes from the social insurance taxes. And those are very regressive.
Right.
The rate and the amount, by the way, 2/3 of the total there is paid by people who make less than $200,000, down to $30,000. So that's one of the problems. And here's the deal: the economy, I think, it's very clear. Growth today is different than growth 40 years ago. It has two impacts. One, it increases overall wealth, no question, and it's a good thing. But it does it in an increasingly unfair way. And by the way, Donald Trump is one of the people who makes that point. So the question is, should we in the tax code try to offset that to some extent? And when the great bulk goes to the wealthier people in terms of dollars, it doesn't have that. Now, I understand the desire to improve investment, and I think a deal could have been reached in which capital gains taxes and other investment incentivizing taxes could have been lowered, but not the top rates, and the top rates might even have gone up. And that's my final point, and that is, and Mr. Norquist has always been very honest about this, he thinks government does too much. He would like it to be substantially reduced. The fact is that because we had the magnitude of revenue loss that we did from the tax cut, and the claim that it was going to produce more revenue in the end has clearly not been the case, it also wasn't producing sustained 3% growth, and even Donald Trump is acknowledging that. He blames his own appointees at the Fed for the failure of the tax cut to do what he said it would do. But one of the major costs of the tax cut is infrastructure. We very much need an infrastructure program. It would be great for productivity, and we don't have it. It was one of Trump's promises because the revenue that would have been needed for it went to the tax cut.
Hey, Grover, I wanted to ask you about this. There's this bill out there. It seems bipartisan, and I'm surprised by it, that effectively makes it a permanent ban barring the IRS from ever developing its own online tax filing service. This would have been a free service that would have made paying taxes cheaper and easier, especially for people at the bottom and the middle who are spending, in often cases, several $100s a year. It would actually be a tax cut for most Americans to do this. Why try to block something like that?
Well, two things. There is free file where people who have low incomes can file for free, and all the companies, the for-profit companies that do this, make that available. And the Democrats have been trying to kill that. So it's actually available for low-income people. The real goal of the Democrats, and we saw this in California, is they want the government to do your taxes for you, like Europe does. They send you a bill, go ahead and argue with the government. And when California put that together, you know what they scored it as? A significant revenue raiser, because they intended to write your tax bill so it would be higher than you would expect to pay now. This is a way to raise taxes and to completely strip you of all privacy.
So, Grover, do you have any ideas of how to make it easier and cheaper for American taxpayers to pay their taxes so it doesn't cost them any more money than it already does without doing what you seem to think is a problem?
Well, You can get free help from the various companies that do this if your income is under a certain level. So for low-income people, they have free file.
What about the rest of Americans? It would just be so much easier. People who are W-2 filers, they get a postcard. It says what the number is. You either sign it or you go off and you do your own tax plan.
The federal government takes about 18% of everybody's money. There's no pleasant, cheap, easy, or uncomplicated way to do that. You want simplicity, you want fairness, make the tax bill lower. The idea that the Democrats want to help poor people.
That's the answer? How about simpler?
The reason it's complicated is they're trying to get every nickel out of you that they possibly can.
So
you have lower, simple, flat rates.
You have no rival idea about how to make it easier for Americans to pay their taxes.
But I want their tax
because I think that ultimately your idea is to make it harder for people to pay their taxes, so they hate their taxes and push for lower taxes.
I've heard that argument from liberals, but I'm sorry, it's nonsense. The idea of having somebody be able to do free file for you right now, that exists already. What I don't want is the government to do your taxes for you, make it mandatory, which is the ultimate goal, and then when they overcharge you, go ahead, fight City Hall. See if you like that. This is a really dangerous place to go, and there's a reason that the big government advocates really want complete access to everything about you. It's the end of privacy if they ever got it. I don't think they will.
But it's kind of tempting, though, just not having to do anything, you know.